Hey everybody, Radaman here. Thanks for tuning in to Automation Empire Episode 3. So, one little clarification, or rather tip. Mark and Vree both mentioned that this transfer claw was incorrect, and it wasn't actually grabbing any material. And I've set that up. Now, I did mention that last episode, let's start to work to incorporate some of this gold. Right? Because I would say right now, if you take a look at my unlocks, I am just about at the weight requirement for, you know what? It might even be easier just to incorporate more iron into my iron processing. So how would I do that? That's not that terrible of an idea. So one way to do this, and a really easy way at that, is just to add some additional mining rigs and import some more iron. So in order to import this iron, what I would need to do is to send my train out to grab it. So let's get my little minecart train to go grab the iron that's over there. Again, adding some really arguably hideous rails and towers and all that. Let's plan on how this is going to be grabbed. So these are at the same column, or whatever you want to call it. And then I think I'll set it up like this. We will set the whole train line, let's see, something like this. And now we know what to connect with. Actually, there might be a little bit of a cleaner way. I'm always up for having it look clean, if possible. Or as clean as I can be. And I think I'll make the connection right there instead. And then send it on back and meet up over here. I'm going to need a lot more rails on it. And then what we'll do is we will expand the capacity of our iron processing to match the additional resource input. Because we are going to be able to process a lot more iron. And now this is looking a bit roller coastery, but that's all right. Okay. The other thing I need to do is to run power onto the other side of the water. Luckily, the poles here have no problem with that. And then the last thing is I just ran up over my total power, so I'll add a power station. Okay, and now we are mining up additional iron ore. And then if we take a look over here, I am going to pause it for a minute because I am going to be massively disrupting the throughput here. What we will do is 2 crate makers. And I probably didn't need to remove that all, but we are going to want 6 refineries. So 1, 2, 3. I'm going to have them all clustered together. And you know what? I will cluster them over here just in case we want to add another crate maker to this eventually. So 1, 2, 3. And again, over here. The same sort of layout. And we will fix this sort of pseudo monstrosity. Nothing needs to be perfect, but yeah, cleaner is nicer. So 1, 2, 3. And now we have space in the middle here for if we ever end up with even more iron to process. So those are our crate makers, and now the transfer claws. And skip every one, skip every two, every one. That should be fine. Get those rolling. The last thing is to set up the claw track to actually grab the resources. And we're going to have a little bit of a shorter unload station run. Just a too long run. And I think at the, all right, let's do pickup spots. Oof. A little bit of a misclick there. And this is one way to add a whole lot of capacity to your manufacturing. And zigzagging it so that we can trigger all the pickups and then connecting it to the end here. All right, so pickup sites 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oops, that was a misclick. Done. Add some additional trains because we are going to be processing a lot more material out on this rail. Once we get up to the third level there, we move a little bit faster. Ooh, I've got some signs to claim. I think what I'm going to do is wait until I hit a higher number on this car here. But what I could do is also add an additional processor. And now we have 2 research stations queued up. And as long as these mining rigs never fill up to 10 and idle, this circuit is more or less fully efficient. And that's the only caveat. So let's see. The last one in the line here would be this one. And we're curious, or I'm curious, if that fills up to 10. Because that means that we have too long of a track, and we need to streamline that a little bit better. And likewise, we could do the same thing with the coal over here, but because this factory is a little bit smaller, it might be challenging to I don't know, I think we could actually fit one more. The last one's going to be challenging, but I think we could do it. Squeeze it on in there like this. Kind of an abomination, but... Oh, no, I can't transfer like that. No, I can't transfer like those. Alright, let's get rid of that. So if I wanted to add some additional refineries in here, I would have to move these refineries down the track a bit, which is fine. And I can do this while in progress, I think. Even if I have some of my facilities here frozen, as currently they're frozen, it's not a big deal. Skip every 2. Skip every 1. This should be every 2, and this should be every 1. I had those reversed. And I will, for now, I will just add a pickup at the end. I can add in another refinery if I so wish eventually. So this coal run here is not a full loop. So it actually would be very, very easy to add in these 3 additional drill sites. First, I'll run some power over it with a hideous power line. I kind of wish that you could bury them or something. Again, we've got some parallel runs here. And it will go something like this, I suspect. And yes, there's going to be rails all over the place. Not exactly the most aesthetically pleasing, but this isn't about aesthetic rails. I mean, it could be if you wanted it to be. I personally don't care. I just care that we aren't losing any efficiency anywhere. It's not about making it pretty necessarily. Oh, that should have gone a little further. Almost eyeballed it correctly. Alright, so then the coal comes down around, and then we will have it be a full loop. Which means that over here, at the end of this, this connects to the new coal drills. And I think I'll have it go like that. Quite ugly, I know. But it's functional. It makes us money. And if you get to the point where you've got more money than sense, you could pretty it up if you wanted to. So, looks like we need to add some cars here because this is filling up. And then I would even say that the amount of iron that I currently have is filling up as well. Another thing I haven't done yet is a claw or something like that to take resources and insufficient funds and put them away. So let's skip every 1, and there we go. Now we have instant take transfer. Rather than a transfer claw. Both are valid. So this is one method and this is another. Alright, I think what I'm going to do is don't skip any for the iron. So we seem to have plenty of iron to export. We have full export tracks here. And another thing that we could do if we wanted to sell some more, because if you take a look at the unlocks here, I have enough weight to get the crate gate. All we're waiting on now is research. I could either start to try to research the excess here. And as you can see, we've got a nice full container here. Oh, this is going backwards? Wasn't expecting that. Now, if you wanted to, you could also, I don't have the funds for it at the moment, but you could also add some additional crates here. One of the weirdnesses about the containers is these arrows, even though they seem to be arrows, they're sort of omnidirectional. So as you can see, these two crates are sharing resources. So I just doubled my amount of storage because the resources can be transferred back to, you know, it works both ways, which is strange, I realize. All right, so these things do not have the ability to put resources into the track or the minecar. We'll add that. And if I really wanted to, I could add another refinery in. Something like this, I would just have to move some of the current refineries around a bit to make space for it. But we could, I'll probably end up doing that. Yeah, as you can see here, we are sharing the weight. And we have a healthy amount of export. I have to get up to 4K to be able to afford the really good loader. So we're almost maxed out for research here, so I'm going to claim. And that does not yet let me unlock the 150K crate gate or the 150K loader. And all the additional iron, I think the bottleneck to export here is just not having enough trucks. Strangely enough. So what I will do is add another truck over here. And the claw train track can run over there as well. So there is my... go. This is an easy fix. The claw train track will come around here and then pop right back into the factory like that. Another drop-off site. And then if I don't have enough trucks filling all 3 stops, all I do is unlock some additional truck travel right there. So the next thing I probably need to do is to change the way this is laid out. So sadly for this coal, it is getting removed for a moment. All right, let's put the refineries back. Now, we do know that we need to have some sort of storage here at some point. So, resources will get pulled. I'll have a tank, and then we transfer them out. So, we know that is a restriction. The last part is the crate arms. So, the transfer arms here are going to be reversed, where we will transfer... there, and then we arm it over there. And the last refinery is going to be put here. Cool. Transfer arm there and there. Skip every 2. Skip every 1. And then the unload station. So, it's a little bit more cramped than the other side, but it functions the same. And let's add in the same old zigzag that we had over there. allowing both spots to be picked up from. And then additionally, we're probably going to want another truck station. To allow for the export. Right? Now, another big bottleneck, I would say, is the lack of drones. Now, soon we will have the ability not to use drones anymore, but for now, we're stuck with drones. So, this claw track doesn't deliver here yet. I need to export some money to do that, but we should be closing in on the 4K requirement. All right, so there's that. And wait for the claw train to pass by, or it blows up the claw train. And then we just have a drop site right there. And then we'll need to add, oh, we already have a window, perfect. Just add the window back, and we'll be running in no time. Drop-off site's complete. And a way to know that this is working well is that you don't have a giant queue of stuff backed up off of the refiners. Now, I'm not saying it's going to always be perfect, and surely it won't be, but you just do your best. So this transfer claw here is going to skip every one. Actually, no, let's not. Let's just take all of the... all of it until the contents of our iron and our coal fill up, because we can always add more research stations. That's never a problem. So as you can see, we have some idled mining towers, so I'm just going to add the most amount of trains as I can to each side. And another thing that we might want to think about is speeding up the speed of the trains, because that helps as well. But that's all research that I'm trying to save up for that truck loader. The truck loader is going to make a significant difference in the amount and the speed at which we load these, because we will no longer be relying on inefficient drones. All right, so what is my... That hasn't changed much. So if I want to add some additional export weight, we are likely to need a new track of highway. And that I think we've already determined. So one way to do it is to put in another entrance. That's a... Can't build there. Okay. I thought I had established that that was in proximity, but it's not, so we're going to have to fix that. That does mean breaking some stuff first. So this exit needs to move over a little bit, so that the new entrance can be more easily in proximity. It's really not that much of a problem. It's actually kind of a more efficient highway route now, because it doesn't have to curve around so much. So, improvements. Now, I know that you can see that we have a ton of excess material. Another thing I could do with that is to drop them off at research when it's all filled up. to research all of this. But once I have the truck loaders, that's really not going to be that much of a problem. And if it is, I can address it. Alright, so here's my entrance. And this one is a little bit of an expensive project because it has to run all the way over to where the gold is stored. Or, alternatively, we ship the gold over here. So that's probably what I'm going to do, is to ship it. Because we want, for now, we're stuck with the drones, and they're inefficient and unideal. And as a result, we need the drones not to have to move very far over here. Now, I suspect, yeah, I'm getting really close to that requirement. I suspect I'll hit that requirement pretty soon here. So what I think I'm going to do is just set up for like a smaller sized factory. Like that. And processing the gold will put me over the top. Actually, let me destroy that. Will put me... actually, that was fine. To hit the required number of exported resources pretty quick there. For now, I guess it doesn't need to be a loop. I'll do it cheap. And then I can loop it in the future. So I'm only going to tap 3 of these for now, and then we can expand as we gain more wealth. But obviously the money is the bottleneck. So we know that we have an entry and an exit over here. So I'm going to build up the factory bits first. And gold is another resource that I will want to be researching as well. So I have to consider that. And my expenses. All right, there we go. We now have the clog gate. Now the crate gate. I don't actually end up using many of them. What it would do is it forms a gate. The claw train has to. It will block passage if you haven't met a threshold. So essentially, the claw gate is really good if you're trying to move these crates over long distances and you don't want an empty train of claws carrying nothing to go to your drop-off points. But I don't really design in such a way that it requires that. Not usually, at least. So as a result, it's not really tech that I need or care about. It's just a means to an end, and the end is the truck loader. The truck loader is really my bread and butter. That's what I want to grab, because the truck loader makes drones pretty much obsolete, and that is phenomenal. Oop, wrong one. Oh, what am I doing? We want to mine like that. Yeah, little brain fart. So for now, I want to intentionally keep it powered off, but make sure that adding... How did I do it before? Oh, adding like that powers it on. It does not. Where is my cut? Is that it? Oh, you know what? This corner of my... No, that's not it. That's most assuredly not it. That corner of my factory doesn't have power. That powers it on. All right, so let's intentionally power it off, so we're not paying for anything. Good. And we really have quite a lot of automation, don't we now? So we're building up a healthy amount of iron and coal, meaning that we may have need to process some additional research, and that's good. I was hoping that it would have it build up. Research is, in my opinion, pretty important, and I'll invest in it. All right, so those are currently off. So this factory is going to be laid out pretty much identically to this one, where we take it and we store it immediately. But I don't yet have the funds. We're getting pretty close to the weight requirements, however. All right, trucks. We have a bunch of trucks exiting. So once I have all of the sort of basic logistics set up here, I can start to export. So the first iteration of this, I am... Well, here, I'll build up. It's really easy to replace those, so I'm going to build up what's inside here first. I'm only going to have 3 refineries. So much like this setup here, we'll have something akin to that. All right, that looks pretty identical. I think that's a little reversed, but that's okay. Every 2, every 1. Then we want a highway entry. And as soon as we have the funds, we'll put the road pit stop in, and then just have the exit be on the other side. 36, we're getting pretty close. All 4 of my research stations are all fueled. Now, the other issue to this is we cannot possibly store a train's worth of material in this small container. And there's some fixes for this, but they're imperfect. Adding larger storage like I did over here helps a little bit. Adding more processing helps a lot. So this plant could add processing for a 3rd crate maker, whereas this one could not. It's too small, and you'd have to blow it up. There's some distinct advantages and disadvantages of factory size. Obviously, the larger your factory, the more material of yours, the more of your funds are locked up, stuck, not being allocated. So if you have a giant factory, you're not really going to be able to spend your money anywhere else. You're just sort of stuck with the expensive factory, right? I mean, that's not great. On the other hand, if you have too small of a factory, like this may be, your expansion is pretty limited. The amount of your options for what you can add and not add into the factory is bottlenecked. And I don't honestly have a solution for you, whether you should spend... I mean, I would say if you're spending a factory, if you're building a factory that is like absolutely positively massive, yeah, that's probably a problem. But you want room to expand, and I'm particularly bad at that. I will happily admit I don't tend to have room to expand. But when you're setting yours out, definitely consider that as a function. So we can afford the highway exit. That means we will start to summon trucks. Now, the only things that this is missing is the claw train. And as soon as I get funds, my expenses is... So it is somewhat expensive to run my current operation. And we have a lot of resources going to waste. So one way to fix this, for now, is to actually... I'm going to remove 3 of my coal and 3 of my iron until my iron and coal are zeroed. And that's going to save me a whole lot of money and allow me to expand this factory for now. And then I will eventually pay for the mining spots back. This is a stopgap measure. This is just so that I can hit the necessary requirements of getting the truck loader. So you don't necessarily need a zigzag pattern. It just offers you an increased amount of resources that you can pick up for a train. And for, you know, very, very little additional money. Which is why I tend to build one. But I'm changing the layout of this one. So I'm gonna design it backwards because there's a limitation here where I want the spot, or where I want the spot. Alright. This truck that I've summoned is probably gonna leave soon, because they don't idle forever. And then that 1 power pole that will get everything rolling. 2 power poles? I thought I had built this so it only required the 1. But I'll build 2. Alright, so everything's powered on. Everything is ready to start exporting processed gold. Gold. I am 280 shy of my kilogram export goals as well, which is really not that far off. I'm going to reverse my train because it didn't pick up any gold on the first pass. And then this is also going to need to be a little bit longer so it can hold gold on more cars. Alright, so now we're picking up some gold, and soon we'll be processing it and exporting it. Perfect. Now I have to keep reminding myself that I've greatly diminished the amount of coal and iron that I'm manufacturing. My iron is not feeling it quite yet, but my coal is. As you can see here, my coal contents have gone down. And one way to level out the amount of production versus, you know, mining and processing is to only really add the drills in that you need. And because I don't have a lot of storage here, I don't really need to add in a ton of... There we go. Perfect. That actually just about topped it up. And maybe I only need 4 for now. Alright, where's my gold train? Here it is. And this should be taking gold ore, not processed gold. I did that on accident. Processing it, moving it, exporting it. Alright, that all looks good. And I can expand that once I have the funds. Oh, we're up to 3,900, so we're almost there. And I'm going to claim all this science. It easily gives me enough to unlock another level of increased truck frequency, and still have leftover for the truck loader. So here's gold processing, and if you check the market value for processed gold, it's 2120 versus iron, which is at 1511, versus coal, which is at 1370. Gold is the nicest, most valuable resource that I have set up for yet. This is reversed. And the prices for this stuff tends to be roughly in the same order. You don't really see stuff at this end of the list jumping ahead. There's not that kind of demand bonus and scarcity. So now you'll start to see the drones move over to load up that gold, and it might require an additional drone bay, but considering I'm like one truckload away from, I'll add the drone bay just to push us over the necessary requirements. But I'm almost at the point where I can dismiss all of my drones forever, which will be fun. Just 100 kilograms. There's a lot of more gold over here. And if I wanted to process this all, either I would need a much speedier train. I really don't have the ability to export all this stuff quickly yet. That's something I'm going to need to set up for. And I think, if I am not mistaken, that is the first truck of gold that we've got rolling. 40 away. We're getting very, very close. As I increase efficiency here, just closer and closer yet. There it is. All right, so the way this works, let me just pause a second. Or pause longer than a second. Bye-bye, drones. So all of the drones have just exploded. That's just the way it works. All of these, oops, I did not mean to do that. The tracks, the export tracks, the unload export tracks, I no longer need. And I know this episode is going to run a little long, but I'd like to set this up. So I can't build here because of those rails. Oops. So let me fix that. Truck loader. All right. So that's what the truck loaders look like. They're just drop-off spots that hover over the trucks. And then your truck loading will look something like this, where you take the rails out from inside your factory and just run them over to the truck loaders. And connect them in a full loop. Oh, come on. And they can even run over the road like this. That's not a problem at all. Now, the further down the loop, the less likely it is for you to have material. So it might be ideal to have just 2 of these truck loaders on a loop, because the third, if 2 trucks are waiting here, all 12 claws will drop off for the first 2 trucks, and the third truck will remain idle. That's just the way that it will work. All right, we'll power that back on. Now I'm going to run the rails where it doesn't interfere with the truck loader. And I have to retrofit the rest of my pit stops before I unpause this. But you'll see, hopefully, there'll be a significant difference the moment I complete this. in the amount of resources that I process. There should be, if I'm not doing it incorrectly, a jump. Because drones will no longer have to slowly, inefficiently wander over to where they are needed. It's just a claw track that does it immediately, efficiently. That's not to say I won't ever use drones again. Drones can be helpful. They are a lot more flexible, whereas these claw trains are not. All right, so we have 2. That's probably enough. The last one over here, I can set up. It's sad to be deleting all that gold, but it's it'll be fine in the long run. And then we'll have capacity for obviously more over here. So here we go. Directly loading up onto the trucks, and the trucks leave, and then we just grab new material. And we are drone free. As you can see, we're not waiting for any of these drones to move around. Additionally, if you take a look, the truck loaders here, the claw train truck loaders, don't have a monthly cost, whereas the drone bays did. So I'm actually saving money as well. I think my efficiency goes up, and I save money. So right now, let's say I was about at 4K. Let's see if I beat 4K now that I've got all the loading. We're going to want at least 6 claws on that track. And soon I will want to process the gold as well, because some of the unlocks, like for waterworks, are with gold. The combiner is the next big one. That allows me to make things on the bottom of this list, so steel plates, capacitors, gold fuel, ethanol, and grain meal. Well, grain meal, but the grain meal and the ethanol is locked up behind farming. Some other ones that I'm likely to get soon. So the combiner's first, and then eventually freight train once I increase my export capacity as well, which will be nice. So it looks like my 4th train isn't getting resources. And another thing I probably ought to do is to add some additional pit stops, and then have 1 claw train track for 2 cars and another claw train track for 2 cars, rather than 3 on 1. The 3 on 1 is just not as efficient as it could be, because we are bottlenecking it what our claws can pick up. But my current output went down a little bit due to the extra long claw train track, but that's pretty easily fixed. And the amount of money I'm saving is not to be scoffed at, running the extra power to power up. So the drone bays themselves require, I was using up, 2,000 a month in just power alone. All right, guys. Well, that's about all the time I have for this episode. I hope it's been interesting to you. This is a mini-series, so it's probably not going to go too much longer. But as long as there's some interest, I will keep playing it. But I am eager to sort of debut and premiere other games as well. Thank you all for watching. If you have any questions for me or feedback, drop me a line, and I'll catch you all next time. Adios.